the Kentucky Center for the Arts. The new showcase for entertainment and the arts in the Commonwealth. The center of it all. Tonight, a major entertainment event. Opening night at Kentucky's bright new showplace, with entertainment greats from Broadway to Hollywood, along with dignitaries from Kentucky and across the nation, here for a gala stage celebration produced by George Stevens Jr. Now, with highlights of this evening's performance and your first look inside this exciting new art center, Jim Mitchell and Jackie Hayes, Dave Wilson and Lydia Copeland.
Good evening from the new Kentucky Center for the Arts in Louisville. I'm Jim Mitchell with Jackie Hayes here in the lobby of this beautiful new art center at 6th and Main in downtown Louisville.
We're here to bring you some of the highlights of this evening's gala performance, a performance on stage produced by George Stevens Jr. He has brought along some big-name entertainers, including some big-name entertainers from right here in Kentucky. Marcia Norman with a scene from her new play, Winter Shakers.
There's no way we can show you everything that'll be happening here tonight, but we do hope to give you a good idea of what's going to be going on, a fine sample of the performances, the kind of work that'll be done in the 2,400-seat Robert S. Whitney Hall. That, of course, is named after Dr. Robert S. Whitney, who was the founder and for 30 years the conductor of the Louisville Orchestra, a man who helped the orchestra gain a national reputation for innovation in music.
The opening night celebration is a benefit of sorts. Each seat costs $750. That's a lot of money, but the center needs to raise $1 million to finish the smaller theater here, 620 seats in there, and that theater will be dedicated tonight and named in honor of Dr. Moritz von Baumhard, the founder of the Kentucky Opera Association.
Two giants in Kentucky's arts community. The theaters and the building here will be used for more than just the 5 so-called resident groups, that is the orchestra, the Opera Association, the Louisville Ballet, the Broadway series, and Stage 1, the Children's Theater, all sorts of other programs, about 400 a year, designed for all sorts of entertainment taste, and of course you'll hear more about that later.
It is a center for all the people of Kentucky. About $23.5 million of the $33.5 million it took to build the center came from our tax dollars. The Art Center officials are encouraging everyone to come by this year. In fact, they expect about 600,000 people to come through these halls.
But tonight it's the glitter and glamour. In fact, you just heard this star-studded group being called in by 4 trumpet players. That is the signal for them to go into the main hall, because it won't be long before the show begins. With all this glamour and glitter here and stars arriving, let's go find Lydia Copeland and Dave Wilson and meet some of those stars.
Thanks, Jim and Jackie. We are indeed looking forward to the opening night celebration, and it seems as though fate has given us a spring night in the middle of November. We are out in front of the building on Main Street awaiting the arrival of our celebrities.
And aside to recognizable stars from Hollywood and Broadway, who are also members of this center's National Honorary Committee, we'll be seeing other dignitaries from business and government. And plenty of other people here are very happy to be here.
Right.
Arriving for this grand occasion via Lincoln Continental is Mr. Baumhart. Good evening. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you again. Are you ready for this evening?
Yeah, indeed we are.
It's pretty exciting.
Hello, how are you?
Hello,
Good to
how
see
are
you.
you?
Nice to see you.
We're so looking forward to this evening. And what in particular are you anticipating to be a
I
big...
don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are you tonight?
Well, I'm fine. I'm even better now that I see everybody around here. It looks absolutely wonderful, doesn't it?
Now arriving is Mr. George Stevens.
Hello.
Mr. Stevens, hello.
How are you? Anybody show up?
Oh, a few people. They're waiting for you inside. This must be a very special evening for you.
Well, I think so. I think it's going to be wonderful. I think it's, from tomorrow on, it's going to be a great facility for the people of Kentucky.
My mother's excited because Kentucky's her home state, and
It doesn't take much to excite an old woman.
I can see where she gets her humor. We're very much looking forward to hearing you
thank you.
tonight.
It's very nice
Have a
to be
nice
here.
evening.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Hello, Miss Gish. Good evening.
Good evening, dear.
How are you tonight?
Well, I'm all excited. Look what's happening.
I know. Did you ever think something like this would happen in Kentucky?
Yes. You're a famous state. You have a lot of famous people, and you deserve it to have all this.
Are you ready for any particular performance tonight, or is it going to be a
I
surprise?
think it's going to be a marvelous mixture of, I'm looking forward to all of it, indeed.
It's a nice way to come home.
It's a terrific way to come home. And what a what a sensation this building is. You know, I think of all the communities in this country, much bigger, with many more resources. They don't have anything like this.
Good evening, Mr. Ives. How are you?
Just fine.
First rate.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Are you ready for an exciting evening?
Indeed, I am. Looking forward to it.
How do you feel about this evening?
I love it.
Good evening. How are you? Just fine. What are your impressions tonight?
Oh, fantastic. I'm excited. I'm nervous.
How did the rehearsal go today?
Great. Just great. Oh, it's going to be wonderful. Everybody's going to love it.
Yes.
I really think so.
Well, most of the guests have arrived now, many of them parked under the center in the new parking facilities off 6th Street.
Well, I'm pretty excited, so why don't we go on inside and join Jim Mitchell and Jackie Hayes?
It's almost curtain time.
Thank you, Dave and Lydia. We'd like to add for your benefit here that we're bringing you much of tonight's program on videotape. We can't show you everything that's happening on the stage because of performance rights that some of the players reserve here, but we are going to show you a lot of it. It's shortly after 9 o'clock your time, of course, but we are videotaping much of this earlier in the evening, and then we'll be playing it back to you along with our other reports, so we just didn't want you to think that all this was live right at the moment.
That's not too complicated.
Our technical crew can follow it. The house lights are going down. The audience has been asked to take their seats in the new Robert S. Whitney Auditorium. Of course, Sir Robert Whitney was the founder and leader for 30 years of the Louisville Orchestra. He's been honored by the board of directors by having this new 2,400-seat theater named for him.
It is perfectly beautiful, Jim. Acoustically, it is perfect state-of-the-art equipment. There's another smaller theater, 620 seats, which is not finished. That's the reason for this gala opening ceremony, to raise $1 million to finish the Moritz von Bumhard Theater. Each seat tonight cost $750, and center officials tell us tonight that they have made their goal, and the von Bumhard Theater will open on schedule in January.
The very first thing we'll hear in the new auditorium on opening night, of course, will be our national anthem. Lawrence Layton Smith is about to take the podium. The Kentucky Opera Chorus is on the stage to lead the anthem. And we are about to begin the inaugural performance at the Kentucky Center for the Arts. We understand there's about 1 minute
Ladies
until
and
the curtain
gentlemen,
is raised.
as the curtain rises for the first time at the Kentucky Center for the Arts, will you please join the chorus of the Kentucky Opera and the Louisville Orchestra in singing our national anthem? Ladies and gentlemen, the producer of this evening's gala entertainment, George Stevens, Jr.
Tonight, a new jewel is added to that small necklace of cultural centers that link the arts across the United States. The carpenters left just about an hour ago, as did the rug layers, the plasterers, and the electricians. This stage now belongs to the performers. We've planned an evening of special purpose to display the breadth of possibilities of this magnificent theater, to emphasize the richness of cultural tradition that thrives right here in Kentucky. And for accent, we've brought along some great international stars. I hope we will bring to you the joy that an occasion so special as this deserves. It occurred to me that the master of ceremonies for a gala entertainment like this should be ideally a person committed to the development of this nation's artistic resources and a talented artist. Perhaps a man who served 6 years as a member of the National Council on the Arts, or who served 10 years as chairman of the American Film Institute, and who served President Reagan as head of his task force on the arts. Well, that sounds distinguished, but a little dull. Unless this man also is the one who parted the Red Sea for Cecil B. DeMille, who painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and who rode a horse-drawn chariot to an Oscar in Ben-Hur. Ladies and gentlemen, your master of ceremonies for the gala opening of the Kentucky Center for the Arts, Mr. Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston, one of America's foremost actors, will be master of ceremonies tonight. You could hear the cheers of delight and surprise. This was a secret well guarded by George Stevens, a surprise for the opening night audience. Mr. Heston is very impressed with this new center here, and he told me that this morning in an interview. Mr. Heston, you've put in many years, I know, of work on the National Council for the Arts, and you know how important it is around the country. Can you give us an idea what a place like this means to a community?
Well, I think it means a great deal to the entire country, and certainly to the state of Kentucky and the city of Louisville. Its creation largely from private funds and state funds and contributions from the county and the city itself are exactly in the American tradition of supporting the arts from the private sector. And this is just a magnificent complex. I haven't honestly seen anything better anywhere in the world.
Well, we're delighted to hear you say that. You know, this is the result of many plans discarded, revamped, brought back.
I don't know if we can see it through the window here, but what impresses me as much as anything in the architecture is the way they've created that facade mirrored so that it not only is of itself a totally modern expression of architecture, at the same time it reflects from across the street some of the traditional styles of the older buildings in Louisville.
We're trying to do a lot of preservation. Yeah, a lot of preservation going on along Main Street here. You said in your journals that were published as The Actor's Life that it was necessary on the Council for the Arts many times to cut the budgets. People came in asking for a lot, and they found out, once they were told there was only so much money, that they could do it for less. And in fact, that's what happened here.
I think that's true. And also it reflects what we always tried to do when I was on the National Council for the Arts, and what the National Endowment still does, which is make certain that the taxpayers' money does not provide most of the funds, because that is taxpayers' money, and it should come from all over, from the community as well, and it's certainly done that here.
We have reason to hope that your being here is kind of a good omen for us. Do you know what you were doing? I know, because I reread your book, and it's done by dates. Do you know what you were doing 25 years ago tonight?
Tell me.
You were in Rome filming Ben-Hur.
Oh, my word. Yes, yeah, that's right.
Which turned out to be a pretty successful experience.
That turned out
for you.
Okay. That chariot race was fixed, though. I knew I was going to win it from the beginning.
Well, I think we all wanted
I
it
think
to come
this
out that way.
the victory of this Performing Arts Center is assured, too.
Charlton Heston, Of course, he and the producer of tonight's program, George Stevens Jr., are good friends, and George Stevens Sr., the producer's father, directed Mr. Heston, 1965, and the greatest story ever told.
That's amazing. Charlton Heston gets my vote.
He is a fine fellow, and I was so impressed because he took the time to learn a lot about the Kentucky Center for the Arts and what's going on here. A lot of big stars will come to a town, they don't even know where they are, really, but he knows what Louisville is all about.
Pretty neat guy. Well, what could be more appropriate for the opening of the Kentucky Center for the Arts than bluegrass music? Here now on stage is a group called the Dry Branch Fire Squad with the Green Grass Cloggers.
Finest Appalachian-style dancers in the country, the Green Grass Cloggers.
The Dry Branch Fire Squad with the Green Grass Cloggers. Certainly, bluegrass is Kentucky's music. We will be back to opening night at the new Kentucky Center for the Arts in Louisville right after this.
The marvelous new center has so many aspects to explore, and right now we're going to do just that with the executive director for the Kentucky Center for the Arts, Marlo Burt.
How are you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Good.
And after all the years of planning, you must be very proud of the results.
Well, I'm proud and excited. I can't tell you what I am. I'm just everything.
I know you and your entire staff have placed so much emphasis on the fact that this is not a highbrow center to be avoided by those who think, oh, the arts, they're only for a select few. Let's address that.
That's very important to me, particularly, but it's important not only to the staff, but to the board and to the state government who've helped fund this and the people that put the money into this project. They have said all along that they do not want a place where there's just one type of audience or one type of programming, but we want multiple programming, multiple audience. And because out there's people who are audience and have interests that are much broader than just one kind of what we call the fine art kind of programming.
And Marlo, this is the fabulous Robert S. Whitney Hall. What a place to perform.
It's beautiful. We're very, very pleased with this. You know, one of the interesting things when you design a building, put it on paper, you never know how it's going to come out. And this is one that you walk into and you go, oh, boy, is this nice. It really looks nice. We have an orchestra section of approximately 1,400 seats and 2 balcony sections of 500 each, with box seats going down the sides. We have 22 boxes, and they range from 3 seats to 9 or 10.
Marlo, this stage area is huge.
Well, there's a reason for that. This stage is designed to accommodate several shows at the same time. You've been watching before we went on the air here, watching them move the orchestra shell, and they moved it over in one of the wings. Above you, you have the fly system with about 110 working lines, which is nothing more than a storage area. So theoretically, we could have a ballet, an opera, and the orchestra in here all at the same time.
That's
and move them in and out, have an orchestra concert in the evening, one evening and ballet the next, or afternoon rehearsals, but it's very flexible.
What are these?
What are those?
Yes.
Those are called acoustical clouds. What they are is fiberglass, pieces of fiberglass that we use as ceiling pieces above the orchestra. The theory is when an orchestra is on the stage, you have this terrific volume that you can see. Now, if we were to play the orchestra on this stage without an enclosure or an ability to shut the stage down and diminish its size, the sound would be lost up in the fly gallery and the wings, and the people out in the house would get none of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we move in our acoustical enclosure or sound shell, whatever you want to call it, orchestra shell, and those were part of that. Along with that, there's a series of wall units that we have, and the whole theory is to take the sound and move it out into the house. So what you have is a really one room. This room coupled with the house, and you can really call it one room. It becomes a musical room.
Marlo, I understand this is just one of many dressing rooms you have to accommodate the performers.
Well, when we decided to build this building, we said that one thing we're going to do is provide the performers with wonderful dressing room space, because what they're working in now is dismal by all stretches of the imagination. So we have 4 of these chorus dressing rooms, which can dress 25 people each. Below the orchestra, below the stage level, we have dressing for 100 orchestra members. And then again at this level, which is right at stage level, just a few feet from the stage, we have 8 principal dressing rooms, which will either serve as double star, or I hate to use the word star because everybody fights over that room, but they all have showers, and they all have johns, and they all have makeup mirrors and little note boards and places to store their personal belongings, and coat racks, and dressing costume racks.
Right.
And they're clean.
Now, of course, this is the Mary Anderson room, and a lot of activities will take place here, right?
Well, this is a combination of a lot of things that will happen. The room, of course, is primarily a social area, and it is named for Mary Anderson because she was one of the principal actresses of Louisville for years and years around the turn of the century and the first part of the 20th century. The space is meant to be a place where we can gather with performers and actors and actresses after a show. It's meant to be a place where people in the community can come, just congregate and have lunch or dinner and enjoy themselves, cocktail parties. But it is the social area of the center in terms of just coming and enjoying another part of the ambiance of this place.
You've talked about the cooperation of so many groups and so many people, but one person in particular and a corporation jump out, and that's Humana Corporation and Wendell Cherry.
Yeah, Wendell Cherry is chairman of the board, and he has been, he's one of these guys who takes on a task, he gets it done, and he's seen us through because of his personality and skills and so on. Some very difficult times, whether it be the financing or the construction. He is the president of Humana Company, and he and David Jones, who's chairman of the board of Humana, really put that company, I don't know how to say it, I don't know how to describe anything more that a company could do for a project like this. They've given us millions of dollars of out-and-out money. They've given us untold amount of man-hours in terms of their construction department, their design department, people and their staff who've worked for this project. They've, just this weekend, bringing people in from around the country for this opening, use of their company planes for that purpose, has been absolutely wonderful. The company has done everything.
Above and beyond.
In my wildest dreams, I've been in this business 20-some years, I've never seen a company do what Humana has done for a project of this sort.
So you feel like they'll be very good neighbors?
They're wonderful, and there are new Humana buildings right across the street from us. So if you come to Louisville and you decide you want to go to the Arts Center, in about a year and a half you're going to see something more remarkable maybe than the architecture of this Arts Center, and that is the new Michael Graves office tower called the Humana Building.
Among the stellar performers on stage tonight in George Stevens' production is opera star Jessye Norman. Miss Norman made her debut at the 100th anniversary of the Metropolitan Opera House in New York, and she drew rave reviews. While the opera world is talking about Miss Norman is talking about the new Kentucky Center for the Arts.
Well, it's a beautiful building. I think it's wonderful to be at the very beginning of something like this. I'm sure that all of the people involved with the center have worked very hard to get it to this stage. And I think that opening night is going to be very exciting for everybody.
Were you pleased with the acoustics?
Yes, there seems to be a very good acoustics. Wonderful. Really very good. So I'm looking forward to that. It felt very easy to rehearse in there.
So if you had some way that you could interest more people in opera or
I think that people become interested in opera when it's presented to them. And they see that it's really quite enjoyable and that it's not difficult to follow the story at all. I mean, it is just a story that is sung. And people find that they like it very, very easily and that they come to it very easily.
And another thing that seems like it has to be overcome is the fact that it sort of has that elitist stereotype.
Yes, I'm afraid so. Well, that has to do simply with the fact that opera is a very expensive thing to put on. And in order to try to make a little bit of money, the arts hardly ever make money, but in order to try to break even sometimes, I'm afraid the ticket prices are a bit high, and therefore it makes for it a bit kind of impossible to be a populist kind of thing.
But you do see opera as for the common man.
Oh, absolutely. It's for everybody. It's just that not all of us can afford to go every night.
Jessye Norman, a rising star in the world of opera, a supreme soprano. And we'll be back with more from the gala opening of the Kentucky Center for the Arts right after this.
We're back now at the opening night gala, the Kentucky Center for the Arts in Louisville. And of course, Marcia Norman, being from Louisville, the lady has just really made it big on Broadway. In fact, one of her first plays, Getting Out, walked away with several awards just a few years ago. Night Mother won the Pulitzer Prize in 1983 for drama. And tonight she's back in her hometown, bringing with her a scene from her newest production. It's a musical called Winter Shakers, and we're going to let her tell you just a little bit about it.
It is such an honor to be here. It's so good to be home. For 2 years now, I've been working on a musical about the Shakers. And so when I was invited to come, I asked if I could bring you a scene from that musical. You know, that's honored writer tradition. You try it on your family first. But which scene? Should I show you Shaker doctrine? Should I show you Shaker dancing? Shakers making Shaker chairs, maybe? No, I thought, it's a gala evening. I'll show you Shaker sex. The only trouble with that is, of course, there wasn't any Shaker sex. And that's what the scene is about. In this scene, you will see James, who, like many slaves, was freed by the Shakers when they bought a piece of property where he was working. He has been living in the community for 5 years now. You will see Calvin, who, like many orphans, was taken in and raised by the Shakers when his parents died of cholera. And you will see George, who is not a Shaker, but who came to the Shakers with his family for the winter because he had no work and no place to live. The year is 1857. The place is Pleasant Hill, just down the road near Lexington, Kentucky.
I don't know how you do it, James. I'm supposed to have all my energy for work because I'm not using any for sex. It's been a month now, and I swear I'm not getting a thing done because sex is all I'm thinking about.
Well, yeah, it's like that at first.
Well, what's the point of this celibacy thing? If I could just see the point of it.
It's really very simple, George. Nobody's got nothing to be jealous about, nothing to show off, and nothing to lose. And once you cut out sex, you got a lot of new time to think. So, everybody's real, well, thoughtful. Oh, good morning, Calvin.
It is a good morning, James. But it's such a long morning, James.
Thoughtful, huh? Some angry spirit's got a hold of him, that's all.
I know that. I've been trying to work him off, but he won't go. Not this devil. No, sir.
I think we got the same one, buddy. What's she look like?
It's nothing like that.
Nothing like what?
This is a good life here. Working together like this, we're the richest landowner in the state almost. Whatever we do, we take our time, we think about what we're doing, and we do it right.
It's a good place, all right. The best place I ever lived.
Me too. And you were real smart to stop here, because no matter where you went, why, you'd never find better brooms, better brushes, better bread, better buttermilk, better butter beans. I simply can't go on being perfect. Every day as blissful as the next. Absolutely clean and pure in thought and word and deed. Rested, sane, and wholly unperplexed. I simply can't go on being perfect. Trouble is, I've got no room to grow. I'll never be forgiven, for I've nothing to confess. Mercy is a joy I'll never know. I just want one little bite of apple, one little sip of gin, one little trespass, one quick slip, one little taste of sin. I just want one little violation, one little brush of skin, one little impulse, one regret, one little taste of sin. I want a second chance for salvation. I'll tear my hair, repent, and sin no more.
Sure you will.
Just give me strength to lose my way and stumble like the saints. Then be redeemed and live forevermore.
I know just what you mean, boy. Now, I guess I shouldn't say anything, but I know just what you mean.
Goodness is relaxing like a long hot bath.
Like an endless walk down a long straight path.
Goodness is so soothing like a handmade quilt.
Like an old log cabin that an old man built.
Goodness is eternal like your soul.
Although goodness makes your time go awfully slow. I just want one little bite of apple, one little sip of gin, one little trespass, one quick slip, one little taste of sin. I just want one little violation, one little brush of skin, one little impulse, one regret, one little taste, just a taste, one little taste of sin. That's right, Calvin. Take that devil out of you. Their dances got nothing to do with God, boy. Slow dances, sashay, don't see, don't. Don't you listen to him, you work. Oh, one little taste can't hurt you, boy.
I mean, you ought to at least know what you're missing. But if I did that, I might not be able to stop. Then it might take more than a little. Then I might not want to do anything else for the rest of my life. And then, oh no, maybe about it. I would go straight to hell for sure if I did that.
Oh, come on. One little taste of sin. How long has he been here?
Came here when he was 3 years old, I think.
And he's never been outside those gates, you mean?
That's right. All he knows about sin is that we don't go for it.
That's not enough, James.
One good boy, that is one good boy. But boys always want more. Such a boy, I was such a boy.
What do you mean was? I still am. And you are too, now aren't you?
Don't know what we wanted for.
Then I don't know how people are supposed to do this.
Take some time, sit and wonder as you hear the cry of the world rushing round you. Let the crowd go by. Take some time just to listen, just to wait and see what a man and a moment can turn out to be. Take some time freely given. Take some time to know what you need, what you have to have, and what you owe. Take a day, maybe longer. Take a year or two to decide who you are and what you want to do. It's no race to the finish. It's no game to win. It's the time and the questions and the man you've been. Take some time free from worry. Take some time to talk to the friends gathered round you. Take a quiet walk. Take some time for the moment when the time slips by, and just stand there together without knowing why. It's no race to the finish. It's no game to win. It's the time and the questions and the man you've been. Take some time for a season when the clocks run slow and the shape of an hour has a face you know. Take some time from the fullness of the time in store till you know what the richness of the time is for.
Marcia Norman's new play, Winter Shakers, looks to be a success, judging by that scene. In that scene from her new musical, we saw Patrick Tovat from Actors Theater of Louisville, familiar to many people here, Cleve Asbury, and Rodney Hudson. And we'll be back with more from the new Kentucky Center for the Arts right after this.
Jim and I happen to be standing outside the smaller of the two theaters here at the Kentucky Center for the Arts. It will be home for Stage 1, the Children's Theater. There are 620 seats here. There's even a cry room. You can tell this place is obviously designed for children. But the cry room, the smaller members of the audience can be taken out so the bigger members of the audience won't be disturbed. Well, the center is honoring Dr. Moritz von Baumhard, the founder and director of the Kentucky Opera Association, by naming this theater for him. On stage right now is Diane Sawyer. Let's join the dedication ceremony.
What a night to be home. Good heavens. And what a place to be able to call home. Mine is the serious and enormously pleasurable responsibility of leading you in the dedication of the two theaters that comprise the Kentucky Center for the Arts. To thank those who dreamed and those who put their money where the dreams were. You know, we are very lucky in this town because we have people, individuals, and we have corporations who have made immense contributions to build this center and then had the combination of taste and good sense and self-restraint not to name the theaters after themselves. Consequently, we are going to be able to dedicate tonight these two theaters to two living artists, to two of our friends who tended the flame of the arts long before any of us ever thought a building was possible. Let us begin with the first dedication then. You know, all of you tonight are also contributors to this theater because it is the theater that is next to this one on the right as you were coming in. It's still unfinished, but your contributions made for this evening's event are going to help finish it. Let me tell you about it. It's going to seat 610 people, and it's going to be a perfect setting, a very warm environment for small opera companies, for chamber groups, for string quartets. But its primary purpose is going to be to serve as the home for the Louisville Children's Theater, one of our most beloved performing arts. I guess I most of all know that because my wonderful mother, for so many days of my young life, trundled me down to that creaky old theater at the University of Louisville so I could test my fantasies on the children's theater stage. I remember I was a very prestigious monarch, complete with a cape and a scepter and a crown and a ponytail. I also was able to serve as one of the singing angels in red shoes, most notably, that is, for the performance on the night when I knelt down and was singing valiantly and caught both of the heels of my shoes and the gown of my dress and was unable to get up, so the stage managers had to carry me, wings and all, off of the stage. But Longfellow said, "Time is fleeting and art is long," and time has certainly changed the Louisville Children's Theater. Stage 1, under the direction of Dr. Moses Goldberg, has become one of the country's leading theaters for young performers. It's really the big time in performance for little people. And we're so glad that at long last it has a setting to match its standards of excellence. And that theater will be a steel and velvet and stone monument to one man's indomitable spirit, a man loved in this city since he came here in 1952 and created the Kentucky Opera Association, Moritz von Baumhard.
Von Baumhard. What a career this gentleman has had. He's contributed so many great moments to the arts in Kentucky. And Lydia, he's still active and still full of energy.
Oh, that he is, Dave. When he arrived this evening, he fairly leapt out of his limousine in anticipation of what the evening would bring to all of us.
Well, I found out that too when I spoke with him recently. Kentucky Opera Association, a success story that is a tribute to the artistry and perseverance of this man, Moritz von Baumhart. During the 3 decades following the KOA's debut in 1952, Baumhart almost single-handedly built the opera company into one of the most individual and successful regional opera companies in the country. And that was no small task because of the many stereotypes that have always surrounded opera, even here in Louisville.
You have no idea, if you hadn't been here 30 or 40 years ago, when you mentioned, at that time, when you mentioned the word opera, people said, oh, you're talking about elite, which is sort of a banned word in this country. You talk about some sort of an aristocracy. No, it was difficult at the beginning. And of course there was no audience at first for the opera. And the audience grew year by year. There was never a year when the audience became less than it was the year before. And the new art center, no doubt, would attract people that would not come otherwise. Oh yes. Oh, we all built on that.
What the people at the Arts Center are also building their hopes on is that enough money will be raised to complete the 610-seat Moritz von Baumhart Theater, designed specifically for children and young audiences. Baumhart feels that if the beauty of the arts is to be fully enjoyed by Kentuckians for generations to come, Kentucky's children must be exposed to the arts at an early age.
And that is the important thing, that they grow up with these things as part of their ambiance as youngsters, as very young people, not after they begin to intellectualize about those things. You're pretty independent by that time, but when you are a child, you are receptive.
Audiences and critics almost always were receptive to the captivating operas that Baumhart directed, and he has walls full of plaques and drawers full of honors to prove it.
All these rewards are very, very wonderful, but in view, or in comparison, with having your name as the name of a hall that stays there for a while, they simply fall away. The honor of having been chosen as the man who carries the name that is being given to the hall is by far the greatest reward and counts to me much more than all of the others put together.
Moritz von Baumhart, the namesake of the Children's Theater here at the new Kentucky Center for the Arts. It's intermission at the center's opening night performance, and we will be back to find out how the audience is reacting in just a moment.
We're at intermission now, which is a perfect time for Lydia and I to talk with two special people, Bert and Elaine Klein, who are co-chairmen of this special event. How much does tonight mean to you?
Oh, it's just thrilling. It's just super.
Elaine, what's been going on inside that theater? How have you perceived the performances to be so far?
Well, it's wonderful to have all of these people here and to see 15 months' work come to a climax and have this beautiful, this is the star of the theater.
Certainly
and to see these wonderful performers inside, and everybody is so excited.
Your heart must have leapt with joy to see it packed.
Absolutely, and I didn't see a single empty seat anywhere. People just turned out, just fantastic. Our community, our state, just wonderful.
Great.
Mr. Klein, it's been a lot of hard work. What has gone on to make this possible?
Well, we've had a lot of friends. We've had a great steering committee. We've had great workers and helpers everywhere. The greatest thing was the teamwork that we had together, my wife and I. And things just worked out real well, and the community responded. I think the community's been looking forward to this for a long time.
It's been an excellent team. Who says a husband and wife can't work together?
It's been great for us.
We've done it for over 30 years.
It's worked well?
Yes, worked wonderfully well.
Well, you both deserve congratulations tonight. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, David Mendia. We are talking to Mr. and Mrs. Wendell Cherry. Mr. Cherry, of course, the chairman of the new Kentucky Center for the Arts and president of Humana Corporation. It's been a long road, hasn't it?
It certainly has.
started, I guess, in 1980. It goes back earlier than that, but with when Governor Brown came in, we got the money from the legislature, and after what now, 3 years, it's here. I think it's quite beautiful, and it's a happy festive occasion for Kentucky tonight.
It's going to have a tremendous impact not only for lovers of the arts and people who like entertainment, but on the whole economy of this community, isn't it?
There's something here for everyone. And we've said before that the mission of the center is, of course, to house our wonderful local performing groups, but it also must have a statewide mission, and that is to link up and relate to many fine artistic activities that are taking place throughout the state of Kentucky.
Mrs. Cherry, have you been hearing as many wonderful things as we have from your friends here tonight about this place?
It is absolutely amazing. People from all over the country are gathered here, and they cannot believe Louisville. They're all going to go back home. I mean, it's really setting a new standard for a lot of cities.
You have to look back over so many years now. Can you say in a word if it was absolutely, positively worth it?
Tonight it is. Last week I wasn't sure.
Thank you very much for talking with us. I know you want to go back and see your friends, and I know they all want to see you and say congratulations. It has been something.
Jim, thanks so much.
Thank you very much. And now back to Dave and Lydia.
And Jim, during intermission, we could not miss these two people who have been so instrumental in bringing this all together. Governor,
how you like,
just fine. What's your impression so far of the program?
Oh, it's an exciting night. It's breathtaking. Not only the performance is great, but the whole evening has climaxed a dream some 15 years ago. And when I took office, I remember the people that stepped forward to really make this possible. I'm proud of the leadership here and the people throughout the state of Kentucky that made the contributions. And this is something no state in the country has done. There's no establishment like this anywhere in the country outside the Kennedy Center. I'm very proud tonight.
So are we.
Have you ever seen an evening quite like this in Kentucky?
Oh, never. Well, I've only lived here 4 years, but I have to tell you, I've never seen an evening like this anywhere. The excitement, the fact that this is a regional theater, I think it can compete with any other in the country. It's probably the best. And it's close to the Kennedy Center, I think, in Washington. I don't want George Stevens to hear me say that, but everything is so elegant tonight. The acoustics in the auditorium are fabulous. I was anxious to hear that. It's great having Kentucky people back, Kentucky artists. Our Diane Sawyer, Florence Henderson will be performing, Lily Tomlin. And I tell you, it's a feeling. I told John earlier, I said, I feel like a proud mama tonight. And he said, well, I feel like a proud papa. Not because of our upcoming event, but because of this event here.
Very good.
I know that we have heard repeatedly from the performers that one of the most impressive facts about this center is that the funding has been so strongly supported by the state. Did you think you could take on a monumental task and that it would turn out so well, such as it has?
Well, we put some awful good people in charge of it. Barry Bingham Sr. and Tom Salmon headed up the fundraising. Wendell Cherry headed up the construction, plus made major commitment from fundraising. W.T. Young with my administration helped pull it all together. We had the best talent and leadership in the state to make something sort of maybe the impossible come true.
What have you enjoyed so far the most?
I think just seeing the pride on everyone's face. This is a proud night for Kentucky.
Well, we're proud to have you here this evening, too. Thank you so much.
Thank you both for being with us.
You know, there are a lot of unsung heroes here with the new Kentucky Center of the Arts. Jim Walters is one of them. We haven't heard too much about Jim Walters, but I think he's the man who sort of made all the pieces, construction, brick by brick, fall into place. You are vice president in charge of construction for Humana Hospitals, correct? And 1980, Wendell Cherry asked you, Jim, we'd sort of like you to oversee this big project we're doing, the Kentucky Center for the Arts. How did you feel?
Well, it sounded like a great idea at the time. I didn't realize that it was going to be quite as complicated or long a haul as it's turned out to be. But I was excited about it and still am. I think the product is well worth waiting for and worth all the work, and I'm just happy to be here.
There have been good parts, bad parts. One thing that's interesting, the labor relationship, management relationship that has been able to be worked out here. What is unique about that?
Well, I think that the contractors and the owner and the labor unions were able to find a common cause in doing something for the community that was really significant, and was one of the first efforts in this community of establishing an agreement that would keep the workers working no matter what, and set out a way to arbitrate problems in a reasonable way. So we feel that it was a landmark sort of thing. And, it went well, and we had a lot of good support from the unions, and the workmanship was good, and we finished on time and on budget.
Well, it's fabulous. One more thing, I know that you were even busy today. What were you doing today?
Putting in seats.
They say they work right up to the last minute. Congratulations, Mr. Walters, and to Unsung Heroes. Now let's go back to Dave and Lydia.
Well, it's been a wonderful show so far, but there's more excitement to come.
Great.
And it's been a lot of work for George Stevens, director Larry Fuller, and the cast.
No show of this magnitude comes together without a lot of hard work and rehearsal. And yesterday, this stage was the site of theatrical genius at work.
One, two. They're not cards. Oh, wait a minute. They're on a chair.
But the day wasn't all work and no play. Governor and Mrs. Brown invited our celebrated guest of honor to take a break from the rigors of rehearsal to enjoy some Kentucky hospitality here at the Governor's Mansion in Frankfort. Charlton Heston, Diane Sawyer, and Florence Henderson were among the many stars who were treated to an elegant dinner in the magnificently renovated Governor's Mansion. These celebrities have performed on stages throughout the country, and in their eyes, the Robert S. Whitney Theater is a performer's dream.
I think it's magnificent. I had the same feeling rehearsing today as I did when I opened the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion at the Los Angeles Music Center. And it's big, but it's intimate, it's warm, the sound is fantastic.
So you think it's going to be an audience pleaser?
Without a doubt. If it isn't, I would be very surprised.
Louisville's own Diane Sawyer of CBS Morning News had special thoughts about what the center will mean to her home state.
I was thinking on the way, and I was trying to decide, because growing up in Louisville, there was an orchestra and there was children's theater. There were all the elements, the cultural elements there, and I was trying to think what it would be to have them brought together in one place. And I decided that the main difference it would make is that it really does provide a kind of symbolic focus for the city, to have that building there and to know that inside that building wonderful things are about to happen. It's not the same as if they happen all over the city in different places.
The Kentucky Center has received tremendous support and attention from Governor Brown's administration. Mrs. Brown reminded us that this project will bring the arts to life for generations to come.
And I think tomorrow night is really the frosting on the cake for so many people who care about the arts. It's one of the most beautiful, without doubt, in the country. It's a $30 million facility, and of course my husband was responsible for putting up half the money from the state, which is the largest state-sponsored program of its kind in the country. You know, it makes me feel good because I know Lincoln and my newborn will have an opportunity to see wonderful musicians and opera singers. Jessye Norman, for instance, tomorrow night. Martin Gould, the wonderful composer. So many wonderful things that maybe Kentuckians might not ever have a chance to do unless they could go to New York or Los Angeles, wherever the cultural centers are. We plan on being one of the great cultural centers in this country before it's all over.
Of course, the Kentucky Center for the Arts is for all the people of this fine state.
That's true, Dave. That has been the emphasis of the project from the very start.
And there is a group that can help you in many different ways.
In most theaters across the country, ushers are trained to do little more than show you to your seats. But here at the Kentucky Center for the Arts, many of them are trained to save your life.
3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 1, 1,000.
It's all part of a special program to educate key members of the House staff and some backstage production people to better handle medical emergencies at the center.
It's interesting to find out where you work at the Arts Center because it will help in determining some of the techniques that we are going to teach and show you the relevancy between where you work and how the techniques might be applied to your jobs.
Humana sponsored the CPR classes, which were taught by emergency medical technician Andy Brown. And according to the Arts Center workers who took the course, it was well worth their time.
Oh yes, I feel that the more prepared we are, the better that we can handle any situation that comes up, any health emergency that comes up?
Well, I just hope I never have the opportunity to have to use CPR, but if the situation arises, I think that I'll react a lot more calmly and be able to do my best to try to save the life of the victim. If one life is saved through this process, it'll be worth it.
One of the fringe benefits of the journalist's life and the ability to see a bit of the world is the pleasure of comparing the place you call home with other places on our planet. And I have been able to see concert halls in Los Angeles, the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, the Great Lincoln Center complex in New York, places in London and Paris and elsewhere, and I can tell you honestly, without a bit of hyperbole or anything else tonight, Louisville does not have to take second place in any race when it comes to this center. Marvelous place.
Not at all. You know, you can look at the people's faces as they come out from Act 1, and everyone seems to be overwhelmed. It's almost like a kid at Christmas time. It's just the most marvelous thing I believe I've ever seen. Fantastic.
If for some reason the people in charge of all this weren't really that thrilled, you could tell. They put on a brave face, but you could tell they weren't completely satisfied. Tonight, they are completely satisfied, and they should be.
It is fabulous. You know, it won't be long before they'll be going back in for Act 2, so as we get a last glimmer of the people out there, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, the second act of the evening is about to begin. The Louisville Orchestra has been moved up on stage, and that is no easy task. They have this enormous orchestral shell that has to be put up there. It includes all the fabulous acoustical walls, reflecting panels that were designed especially for this hall and this stage. As we've said, everything is the state of the art up here. We hear the cliche about so quiet you can hear a pin drop. In fact, that's not a bad description of what it's like up there when they test that hall to make sure everything's perfect.
That's exactly the way it is. When they were talking about opening night, they wanted to do something special. So Lawrence Leighton Smith asked Morton Gould to write something. So he did. It's called Flourishes and Gallop. It's a fanfare. It has a marvelous Kentucky flavor about it. Mr. Smith, the orchestra conductor, is going to be going on stage momentarily to begin things, the second act of tonight's marvelous performance. And let's go now to the stage and enjoy Morton Gould's new work, Flourishes and Gallop.
Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Charlton Heston.
You know, some years ago when I was in Egypt shooting the Ten Commandments, just before I parted the Red Sea, I remember saying, no kidding, I remember distinctly saying, if this works, someday I'm going to go open an arts center in Louisville, Kentucky. And here we are. No, I didn't really say that. I didn't really open this center either, but I will take credit for clearing up the weather today for you, though. After the Red Sea, I can handle that. I was glad to do it. You're welcome. You're welcome. Before the intermission, this was an opera house and a theater. Now it's been transformed into a concert hall. That's almost as hard as parting the Red Sea. On the stage before you are the talented musicians of the Louisville Orchestra. This is a night of new beginnings. New beginnings also for the Louisville Orchestra. A new concert hall where they can play, a new musical director to lead them. I'm proud to introduce him to you now, Mr. Lawrence Leighton Smith. There is a very old tradition that a new piece of music must be composed for the dedication of a new concert hall. We finished Act One with the Tannhäuser Hail Blessed Hall, which was composed for that purpose nearly a century ago by Wagner. We open this act with a fanfare commissioned by the Louisville Orchestra and written especially for this occasion by the distinguished American composer Morton Gould. If you listen closely, you may catch some old Kentucky echoes. Here then is Lawrence Leighton Smith and the Louisville Orchestra with Morton Gould's Flourishes and Gallop. In our audience tonight is the composer of that brilliant music, Mr. Morton Gould. As a matter of fact, this audience is filled with a lot of people who deserve our applause. Let me introduce some of them to you now. The political leadership of the great state of Kentucky is here in force. Ladies and gentlemen, the governor of Kentucky, John Y. Brown, and his wife, Phyllis George Brown. Your new governor-elect, Martha Lane Collins, and her husband, Dr. Bill Collins. Former Governor Julian M. Carroll. His Honor, the Mayor of Nashville. Tough. I didn't get the Red Sea right the first time either. His Honor, the Mayor of Louisville, Harvey Sloan, and his wife, Kathy. The Honorable Mitchell McConnell, County Judge and Executive of Jefferson County. United States Senator Walter D. Huddleston and his wife, Jean. Two beloved Kentuckians have come here from Washington tonight. Former Senator John Sherman Cooper and his wife, Lorraine. Also here from Washington, representing President Reagan, the chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts, the Honorable Francis M. Hodsell. The two chairmen of tonight's opening who have worked tirelessly to make this an unforgettable occasion, Bert and Elaine Klein. And the two women who have planned the cozy little supper for 2,400 people that will take place following the performance, Mary Bingham and Dottie Cherry. And Joanne Gammon, who chairs the champagne reception. Finally, the planning...
An impressive crowd here tonight for the opening of the Kentucky Center for the Arts in Whitney Hall. And among the well-loved is someone I respect very much, and that's Douglas Fairbanks, Jr.
People all over the world have been respecting his great skills for years. I had a chance to talk with him yesterday. He's been suffering from a cold and a bad cough for a couple of weeks now. Had kind of a rough time with it, but he's a trooper. He will be performing here tonight, and he too is very impressed with this new center.
Do you have a feeling about the importance of a place like this to a community?
Oh, I think it's vitally important. Every great civilization has had a center for the performing or the cultural center of sorts. I can't think of one offhand that hasn't had it, and if any country or community that has managed to do without has sunk without a trace afterwards, going as far back as you can imagine.
I was looking back before coming here today over many of your own credits over the years. 1920, was it? Was that your first
1923.
Film? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing that struck me. People made so many more films then. I looked at 1929, 1930 for you. I think you had 7 films one year, 7 films the next, even the great stars. And it doesn't happen anymore. Why is that? What's changed?
Well, in the silent days, of course, they were able to make them much quicker. And 2 or 3 weeks, perhaps 4 weeks was a big special. I've even made a film in 6 days, but it was a 12 and 14-hour day we worked, and 7-day week, too. So there were no restrictions on time. That made them a little quicker.
It's interesting how the time passes, isn't it? George Stevens Jr. Producing this gala here, and I know you must know George Stevens, must have known George Stevens Sr. and worked with him.
Well, he was the director of Gunga Din.
Right.
And a very close friend of mine, very valued and highly admired friend, too.
It must be intriguing to you to have been doing this for so many years, and and now to have a chance and come and work with his son as well.
I've done it before, you know. We've George Jr. and I have been friends for some time, and I have been in 1 or 2 benefits in Washington that he has produced.
Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and he is on stage right now in a performance of September Song.
When you reach September, and I'm no cavalier, and my compliments are tame, and I haven't got time for the waiting game, and the wine dwindles down to a precious brew. September, November, and these few vintage years I'd spend with you. These vintage years I'd spend with you.
Douglas Fairbanks Jr., he is just delightful. We'll have more from the Kentucky Center for the Arts in just a moment.
Dave, this place is overflowing with excitement tonight. People are, well, they're overwhelmed by this magnificent structure.
And all of the celebrities and the wonderful entertainment add even more to that excitement. But the real story behind this fabulous center began long before tonight. Last February, cheerful crowds applauded as the last steel beam was placed high atop the Kentucky Center for the Arts. Construction on the project had gone on schedule with relatively few problems, but there was more to celebrate than the final step of major construction on the center. A new feeling of cooperation between Arts Center management and labor had been established, and many believe it is a feeling that will remain in Louisville for years to come, including Wendell Cherry, chairman of the board at the Arts Center.
I must say that I think it was sort of a turning point here in Louisville. Been a lot of talk about the past and people not getting along so well. But I must say that management and all the unions, the contractors and subcontractors came together after one meeting and said, we're going to build this job and we're going to waste a day. And that's what happened.
The cooperation was the culmination of efforts among Arts Center board members, Wittenberg Construction Company, and the more than 28 subcontractors that worked on the project. A simple one-page document was drawn up stating that the construction workers would get the job done on schedule and within budget in return for being given the job. Steve Barger, a member of the Greater Louisville Trades Council, was a liaison between management and labor.
We think it's very important. We think the agreement on this particular project turned people's opinion and views of Louisville around as to the labor climate, how people work together, We're very proud of this agreement. We're proud of the building. We're proud of our dialogue with Mr. Cherry, with the other people connected with the Center for the Arts, with the contractors. We think it turned Louisville around as far as our labor management relationships. It's a showcase. We're proud of it.
That feeling is shared by the construction workers who also took personal pride in building the Arts Center.
I'm just tickled to death about it. I think Louisville needed something like this, and this is something that everybody can enjoy, like I said, and I'm just tickled to death. I can't wait to see the first showing. Well, Vince got a chance to do just that last Friday night. A special hard hat concert was held in appreciation of the more than 1,500 workers who constructed the center.
Oh, it's very nice. It's one of the few times we've ever been appreciated for what we do.
It's awful nice to see these people do this for us tradesmen.
But I'm not sure whether the Louisville Orchestra or the brand new Ford truck that was given away attracted more attention.
I want everybody I know to come down. I want the wife to come down and see it. Nobody really knows until they get down here. It's something I can be proud of, people in Kentucky can be proud of.
And so we are. But even before these labor agreements could be worked out, the concept of the Kentucky Center for the Arts had to be pulled together by numerous individuals who conceived the idea and were instrumental in its planning from the very first stages.
We heard little rumblings about the Kentucky Center for the Arts, and everybody said, nah, it'll never happen. There was some reason that this project had total staying power, that no matter what problems existed, there were people believing that it's a good thing, both artistically and economically, for the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
The opportunity to dream has been fantastic. The resident groups, they've spent years developing their art. If it had not been for them developing an audience and their support, there would be no reason for the Kentucky Center for the Arts to be built.
It would not be there if there hadn't been a need for it. And so it's time now that the center is coming up. It's coming out of the ground. It's no longer a wishful thought. It's there, and it's going to be gorgeous. The idea was first conceived about 12 years ago, I believe. Gordon Davidson was the chairman of the committee that had been appointed by the governor to look into the possibility of having a performing arts center.
Be late, it's behind.
At the time that Julian Carroll was governor, he informed us that he would seriously consider seeing if the state could fund it. Well, of course, this was a terrific challenge, and Governor Brown then agreed to continue to complete it, but under a different sort of financing scheme and management scheme.
I asked him as part of the negotiation to come up with $6 million, and it's worked out better than I thought. They not only raised $6 million, they've raised $11 million so far. And I think it was the most courageous step, or the most meaningful step ever taken by leadership in Louisville.
I was asked for the governor to get involved and to chair the Kentucky Center for the Arts Board. I thought about it for a few weeks, and I finally said yes. The state of Kentucky put up $23.5 million, which is the largest state commitment ever made in the United States to a performing arts center. It's been an enormous task.
Everybody who had a vision of the center, either artistically or technically, gathered on the second floor of the American Life Building, overlooking this empty site designated as the Kentucky Center for the Arts. And the room is filled with people who represent the arts in terms of board participation or staff or artists. And it was just this broad question, what do you want to do? And after 3 days and 3 nights of working, of people tossing out those ideas, we were down to the smallest detail. We need a 2x2 space for drying ballet tights.
The laundry and the dyeing, I would think, would be a part of that.
you know, they get these tights that they wear and they dye them to match costumes and do all that sort of stuff.
This really needs to be 25, so you're at the level of the back row coming in down. So that's 25 above 0 here. And how many steps are we rising?
For the first time, the arts are going to look so dramatic, I think, when they're shown in that beautiful building down there on the riverfront. The thing is just going to glow like a great jewelry box down there. There's another thing about the site. It is within a stone's throw, you know, of where Louisville literally started, where the first pioneers put up a tiny little settlement on Corn Island, and the very first Christmas down there, those poor pioneers wanted to have a little enjoyment and a little music. Black played the fiddle. His name was Cato. People were dancing and they were having a good time. Right on almost that exact spot, we're going to have some of the best symphony performances, some of the best ballets, some of the best plays that you can get anywhere in America.
I think it is significant that Cato was the fiddler. The black artists provide a kind of a different interpretation of art or a different interpretation of society. I think the center will provide an opportunity for exhibits for major showings of black artists locally and statewide. The center is center for all the people of Kentucky, is what I'm told. And I believe it, and I see it going in that direction. It's paid for by Kentucky state government and all taxpayers of Kentucky, and they ought to share and benefit from the programs there.
And if the center becomes the catalytic force, bringing people from out in the state here, and also obviously the groups here will be touring out in the state too, the center becomes a kind of generating force in making that happen. We have another unique advantage, which is KET. We also have right now 7 national public radio stations. The center will have the capability of originating programming.
When we think about the center, the first thought that comes to our mind is always a people's place. A center which will properly and wonderfully house the orchestra and the opera and the ballet, but it doesn't stop there. The building will be open every single day. There'll be a restaurant there. There's a retail space. We might see the folklore kind of exhibits going on. It's going to have bluegrass coming into it. It's going to have a major jazz presentation. A country western series is being planned and developed. We will have the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, our first year of operation. It's also a center which is going to have, in its first week of operation, a major gospel extravaganza.
I don't know if people fully appreciate what a wonderful impact the Kentucky Center for the Arts can have on Louisville and for that entire region. It will really have an enormous effect.
Life without arts would be an empty shell. It's the greatest source of stimulation and inspiration that you can imagine. When it really clicks, when it really works, that you don't forget it for the rest of your life.
That kind of magic starts going across the footlights, and you start seeing the performers start reacting, and you remember it for a lifetime. A facility which works. An artist who has that great ability to communicate and to create, and then the audience. Boy, those 3 things together, you put them all together, then you've got real magic going on.
It's a product of a lot of giving, of a lot of people, a lot of thoughtful time, planning. It went back years. So this is an orchestration. It's not a solo performance by any means.
When it comes down to the final line, the community has an opportunity to have something very, very special if they take advantage of it. It's just a matter of seeing it, grabbing hold of it, and just going with it, because it's all there.
back now at the opening night gala of the Kentucky Center for the Arts. And as we've said, the large 2,400-seat theater is being named in honor of one of the giants in arts in Kentucky, Dr. Robert S. Whitney. Dr. Whitney is being honored tonight. He founded and for 30 years directed the Louisville Orchestra. And on stage now, Diane Sawyer will dedicate this theater in his honor.
Now, we have in a sense dedicated the room already with laughter and applause, but why don't we give it a name? This room, this glorious room. Why don't we give it the name of a man who is in many ways a founding father of the arts in Louisville? One of Kentucky's leading artists, the founder of the Louisville Orchestra, its conductor and artistic director for 30 years. But you should know that the decision to name it for him was made by the donors whose benevolence, is that an editorial comment? Built this theater. And these donors are Humana Incorporated, Dorothy and Wendell Cherry, and the donors of a gift in the memory of E. Logan Jones, Jr., and they deserve our gratitude for generosity and vision. Robert Whitney, you only had to watch him conduct the Louisville Orchestra to know how it is that sometimes love and dedication really can triumph over adversity. There were times that it said that there were more people on the stage in the orchestra than there ever were in the audience. And of course, there's the famous night reminded of us all by Bill Moots in the newspaper the other day when Mr. Whitney launched the experimental piece for orchestra and tape recorder, and the transmitter blew up in a puff of smoke in the middle of the performance. And there were the times that all of us who were high school students went to the making music concerts. Ah, field trip with Mr. Whitney. Oh, you know how it was. We entered the room absorbed with very little else than who was going to make cheerleader and who kissed on the first date. But we exited the room having been exposed to something transcendent because Mr. Whitney believed that we should be. To get a measure of the man, you have to remember that back in 1949, the orchestra was in dire straits. There simply was no money. Despite the fact Mr. Whitney had developed an orchestra already which had brought the city national renown, but in a master stroke of courage and daring, he decided to take one more chance. And so he exhibited and played a new work by his friend William Schumann, commissioned for Martha Graham. And indeed, the notices brought raves, and because of that, the orchestra was saved. Mr. Whitney has said of this new Kentucky Arts Center that in emphasizing the performing arts, the interest in performers says to our artists and children, you don't have to go elsewhere to succeed. You can do it here in Kentucky. Ladies and gentlemen, the man the poet must have had in mind when he said, we are the makers of music. We are the dreamers of dreams. Robert S. Whitney.
Robert S. Whitney, a man whose heart must be bursting with pride tonight, Dave. He built a brilliant career and really moved the Louisville Orchestra into a whole new forefront.
Definitely. Well, he's a man who's established a national reputation for the Louisville Orchestra.
And we had a chance to talk with him. Robert Whitney was brought to Louisville to organize the Louisville Orchestra in 1937, a tumultuous year for the city because of the Great Flood. While the city's troubles were soon resolved, the troubled orchestra faced a decade of constant battles to stay afloat. Many times it looked as if the group would fail for lack of money. But Robert Whitney's fierce energy and vitality along with his innovative policy of commissioning contemporary composers for Louisville Orchestra concerts, eventually began to attract national attention. In 1952, the Rockefeller Foundation donated $500,000 to the orchestra, enabling it to continue the commissioning of new composers. Whitney and the orchestra then soared to worldwide prominence as champions of new American music, which led to appearances at the White House and Carnegie Hall. Looking back now at his 30 years as director of the Louisville Orchestra, 79-year-old Whitney feels that it was his youthful optimism that kept him going.
The older I get, the more I appreciate youth. How desirable it is to be young. You know, anything's possible when you're young.
Well, but over the years, your experience and mature forming of the orchestra is really what made a difference. So perhaps youth is great, but it was your hard work and the years you put in that made the difference.
Yes, that's true. There's no denying that, and I'm not going to do so.
Like Baumhard, Whitney believed that a successful future for the arts depended on Kentucky's children, and so he introduced thousands of youngsters throughout the state to serious music through his Making Music series.
We worked with children mainly. That was the first thing I realized. It was our only hope. I did everything I could to make the orchestra interesting to the children.
By the time Whitney retired in 1967, he had transformed the Louisville Orchestra into one of the most respected orchestras in the country. And so it was with much sadness that Louisvillians watched Whitney conduct his final symphony in this 1967 documentary.
Nurtured, sustained, driven, polished, and loved by a man we called Louisville's one man in 10,000. To demonstrate in a small way the warm regard this community has for him, let's watch and join in spirit the final moments of the concert that concluded the conducting career of Robert Whitney.
I enjoy all this recognition, and I'm glad it isn't too late. I'm glad I can witness it myself. I find it very, very, it's overwhelming. I could never imagine such a thing as that in my wildest dreams.
Robert Whitney. And from now on, this extraordinary theater is going to be called the Robert S. Whitney Theater, or perhaps it's going to be the Whitney or Whitney Hall, just as many other performing halls around the country. The Metropolitan, the Lincoln Center, maybe even some in Europe. What an honor for Dr. Whitney.
It must be. And now to continue that honor, the orchestra is going to play William Schumann's American Festival Overture. Lawrence Layton Smith, the conductor for the Louisville Orchestra, is going to explain.
Also, the name of William Schumann figures so prominently in the making of this reputation. We're going to play a piece by Schumann tonight, his American Festival. I'd like to dedicate this performance to both Rob Whitney and William Schumann. Thank you.
Once again, the audience loves it. Schumann's American Festival Overture, played in honor of Dr. Robert S. Whitney, a fine tribute.
And now the cast will assemble for the finale. If you watch closely, you'll be able to see how big this stage really is. Once again, Charlton Heston and Diane Sawyer.
Well, Diane, as a famous anchorman on your network used to say, that's the way it is.
So he did, so he did. But the best part about it is not that. It's that that's the way it will be for Louisville and so many nights to come.
Listen, don't you think we should call this whole fantastic cast out here to say goodnight? Starting with a chorus of the Kentucky Opera. The Green Grass Cloggers.
And Florence Henderson.
Douglas Fairbanks, Jr.
And the conductor for Florence Henderson, and for Douglas Fairbanks and the Winter Shakers, Glenn Rovin.
Tomlin.
Miss Jessye Norman.
Our musical director, Lawrence Layton Smith.
Brilliant and tyrannical producer, George Stevens, Jr.
George just pointed out to me that there is one significantly important group we have not even mentioned tonight, without whom nothing could have happened here tonight. They have worked tirelessly and with enormous resourcefulness, the stagehands and technicians.
Ah, bravo!
Not to mention the audience. You've been a fantastic bunch of people. We all decided that there was really only one way to end this celebration. That's for all 2,500 of you to stand up and join all 300 of us in singing My Old Kentucky Home. Mr. Smith, Maestro.
Thank you.
From the new Kentucky Center for the Arts, we'll have more in just a moment.
And now, back in the lobby after this fabulous first night, what was your impression of the entire program?
Just fantastic, really great. It was just exciting.
Are you glad you were here?
Really proud to be here.
What about that finale?
Oh, it was breathtaking. True, and you're right. We're glad to be here. Really glad.
Did it bring a tear to the eye?
It was an emotional evening, truly.
Well, I don't know about you, but I got goosebumps. How about you?
It was the most thrilling things I've ever seen. Everything about it was just beautiful, just beautiful. Everyone was just real excited.
Do you have a favorite? All of it.
All of it.
You do have a favorite?
Was magnificent.
Oh, right. Yes. What about the people around you, their reactions? Could you pick up on that?
I think everybody was just really moved by the whole evening. They thought it was great. We were proud of the hall. It was just, the sounds was fantastic, really.
I'll have to second that.
We're proud to be Louisvillians, truly.
Well, thank you very much for being here
by.
tonight. And Dave, I think that last statement sort of sums us up for all of us. Proud to be Louisvillians, proud to be Kentuckians on this wonderful evening.
Well, it's more than just elegant. It's just amazing. It's simply amazing. There's nothing like it.
It has been amazing. And now back to you, Tim and Jackie.
Thanks very much, Lydia. I wish I could remember who it was, Jackie, who said architecture is the mother of all the other art forms. Probably an architect said that. It certainly is here tonight. A wonderful setting that we're going to enjoy not only with one big do tonight, but for years to come.
It's really something that all Kentuckians can be proud of. You can come here for theater, for dinner, for after-dinner entertainment, for education, you name it.
Well, the folks are leaving now, streaming out of the hall. They are not going home, though. You wouldn't either if the price of your ticket, $750, included a dinner and dance at the Commonwealth Convention Center here in Louisville. This is the one with the imported pheasant and the strawberries and the salmon from Norway and everything. The famous Louisville restaurant folks, the Grisantis, are catering this, and it'll be going on until the wee hours. Right,
there's a candlelight walk to the center from here with mimes and string quartets, choruses and singers, and gee, lots of fun. And you know, it didn't even rain.
Charlton Heston said he could take credit for that based on his experience in parting the Red Sea in his motion picture career. This has not only been a night for Louisville, although many of us who live here and who know the building is here on the banks of the Ohio think of it that way. It's a night for the entire state, and that's one reason we're pleased that so many people on KET network were able to see us in cities all over the state. And we do need to apologize to them for the technical difficulties we experienced around the beginning of the broadcast. Someone's lines got crossed, as lines occasionally do in the television business. But we thank you for your indulgence, and we hope that wherever you live, from Paducah to Ashland, you'll be able to come in and share our pleasure at this new Kentucky Center.
So it's official. The Kentucky Center for the Arts is open. There is a lot to see. I'm Jackie Hayes with Jim Mitchell, and for Dave Wilson and Lydia Copeland, we thank you for joining us for the opening of the Kentucky Center for the Arts. Good night.
Good night.
special thanks on this special evening to the musicians of the Louisville Orchestra and to Musicians Union Local 11637.